Hi, moms. It's Farah, and today I want to talk to you about the well planned portion of Well Planned Working Mom and what does it mean to be well planned. So, we obviously know what it means to be working and to be a mom, but the well planned portion, if you haven't noticed, in my groups, my one group on School, SKOOL, and in my videos, I do talk a lot about self care and about self love. And I truly think that this is an essential factor in being well planned. And I think that it's not something that's often talked about when we are talking about plans, planning, scheduling, using planners, using calendars, blah, blah, blah. So I have found in my experience that the better I feel, the better able I am to make and carry out a plan. So, to me, one of the major cornerstones, one of the major pillars to being well planned is being well taken care of, being well mentally, being well physically, and being well emotionally. All of these things contribute to your ability to not only perform well, but for your performance to have meaning to it, for your work to have meaning to it, and for your parenting to have meaning to it. Um, so I think that depending on what stage of life we are in, or even what season of life we are in, this can look different. Um, I've been in survival mode before, and that looks different from whenever I am finally feeling safe in my body. Um, it's going to look different depending on what stage your children are going through, or you know any number of factors can influence this. So I want you to notice that the way that we live and exist in the world and the way that we take care of ourselves, it is going to change, and that's perfectly okay. At some point I will show you all a nice poster that I made for myself, and it's about seasons. I made it in the summer whenever, a lot of the time I was having to work with my children with me at home, and, you know, that can be stressful, but it can also be a blessing at the same time. I'm not religious, but blessing I think is still a pretty good word for it. But this poster that I made, it talks about like this is the season that I am in right now. So here are some things that I'm saying yes to this season, and here are some things that I'm saying no to this season. One of the things is like there are a ton of different things that I want to do, like painting, painting my walls and redecorating and making updating my space basically to feel more like I want it to feel. And so that is something that I really wasn't able to do whenever I have kids underfoot, and I'm trying to keep them happy and fed and all of that stuff. So I put that underneath something that I won't do. I won't paint. I won't do any painting of the walls over the summer, because I don't want to have an expectation in my head that I know that I cannot meet in this season of life. And I want to normalize and make it okay that I cannot accomplish everything that I want to accomplish in life in this one season. Okay, so that's one important part is self-care, taking care of yourself, you know, allowing yourself to say no to things and allowing yourself to say yes to things, and reminding yourself that every season comes with something beautiful. Even at one point, I was bedridden for an entire month. And, you might think that this is like, that's possibly one of the worst possible times in your life, but actually at that time I started getting really interested in genealogy. I couldn't really do anything except for like look on my phone in the hours whenever I was able to stay awake. And so that was something that I explored kind of as a hobby at that time. So I only say that to say there are beautiful things about every season of life. And so it's okay. It's okay if you sometimes can't be what you thought well planned was. I'll tell you what I thought well planned was, and I know it's a little bit of a tangent here, but bear with me. When I was a child growing up, I grew up in chaos and dysfunction. Nothing stable, nothing predictable. Um, that's kind of the best summary that I can give of it right now. So I was often an outsider looking in, and I thought growing up that, a well planned mother would be somebody who wakes up early every morning, makes a homemade breakfast for her children, makes sure that they're awake and their hair looks perfect, their skin looks perfect, their teeth look perfect, they've eaten, they've read, they've done their rituals and everything, and essentially that this life is just like so perfectly timed. Like maybe the mom wakes up at 5 a.m., everybody eats breakfast at 7:15, like every single day, and then at nighttime same routines. But that's not reality. So again, this was just my best guess as a child of what a well-planned mother might look like. And I was way off. But not to say that we can't get to that level if we need that in our lives. However, just being realistic, nobody's life exists in a vacuum like that. It just isn't always going to look the same because life is lifing, okay? We know this. So, anyhow, flexibility is essential, and that's part of taking care of yourself as well, to not have expectations that are disrespectful to you, essentially, to be okay with what you can do. Um, so, another pillar of being well planned, and what I think is probably the most essential part, is getting from where you are to where you want to be. That is the focus of the well planned portion, at least for my intentions and purposes. It's looking at where you're at in whatever area of life you want to look at, and then looking at what is your dream for that area of your life. So if it's finances, if it's relationships, if it's family, if it's hobbies, if it's education, whatever that is, taking stock of where you are at in a realistic way. Unless of course, sometimes when you're depressed, sometimes it hurts a little too much to look at where you're really at, and that's okay. Be gentle to yourself in those times. So I want to say that, because I know that I'm not the only one who's ever struggled with mental illnesses. So be gentle. Again, it's varies season by season in your life, but anyhow, taking a realistic look of where you are at, and then taking the biggest dream that you have. And this is where I encourage people never to restrict themselves. You always want to have the biggest dreams possible. And the reason is that you can, and not only can you, but you have a duty to yourself to dream as big as possible. Because I'm going to tell you right now, nobody else has the exact same massive dream that you have. Okay, it might be similar, but it is not the same as yours. So I personally feel it is your duty to dream as big as you possibly can, because nobody else can achieve for yourself that thing which you have a dream to do. And you deserve it. Whether you believe me or not, eventually, hopefully, you will realize you do deserve it. It's just a fact. It's implanted into your brain, into your mind for a reason. I truly believe that. So be completely unrealistic, if you will, about your dream, your end goal. But then the well-planned portion is implementing the steps. Well, first determining the steps so that you can implement them, but determining the steps and then implementing the steps that get you from where you are to where you want to be. That is the essential component of being well-planned. That's the meat and the bones of being well-planned, is determine those steps and take those steps. And finally, being well-planned, it looks different for everyone, not just based on stage of life, not just based on seasons of life, but also based on things like what type of learner you are, what type of emotions you have, what type of thinking you do primarily. So The reason why I say all of these things is that the method looks different for everyone. So I was really, really happy that someone brought up that they really enjoy in the school group, SKOOL, Well Planned Working Mom, that somebody brought up that they like digital planning, because I don't. I'm not really a digital planner. I am a paper person. I literally have, if I can show you without, oh, that's good. Okay, yeah. So let me show you. This is on a piece of paper. I made it in my computer, but it is in fact, um, you know, on paper. And I didn't like looking at it on my computer. That's why I printed it out, because I like to have a paper, and I'll probably put some highlighters on there. I actually have a copy of this same exact calendar, and I used 3 different highlighters on it and made it, all different colors, and sent it to the person who needs it. But the reason why I think it's exciting that somebody else told me that they like digital is because it gave me an opportunity to do the research, to take a look at the different ways that we plan as working moms, and the different methods and the different programs and apps and things like that. It's important to be, in order to be well planned, it's important to find what works specifically for you. This is another thing where whenever I was in college, that was when I was really kind of growing up, when I was really kind of becoming an adult. And I think sometimes that's true for people. Sometimes people kind of get that in their last years of high school. Sometimes people maybe never grow up. But for me, I saw a lot of girls my same age who were on top of everything. Like, they had blocked out schedules for when they would study and when they would do this and they would do that. And I was like, that's so intimidating to me, but I feel that I should be her in planning, in terms of planning. I feel that I should be doing exactly what she's doing. Well, I found that doesn't work. And actually, that's around the time that I found that for me, as a more right-brained person, that if I just take a blank piece of paper and I just write at random spots all of the thoughts that are in my head, it actually is very helpful for me. Then I can draw around bubbles and connect with lines, things, tasks, and thoughts that are related to each other. That might sound absolutely crazy to some people. And, this one particular girl who I'm thinking of, who was just the queen of planners, planning calendars, blah, 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 time blocking her schedule, never missing an assignment due date or anything like that. She would probably be like, oh God, I can never use a scribble on a piece of paper, like circles and lines and all that nonsense. But that's okay, because we're different. And so it's so essential that you find what works for you and what helps you to keep going. And the reason why this matters is that if you don't do what works for you, you're going to give up. And not only are you going to give up on the actual planning, the writing, the typing, the whatever, you're going to give up on doing that. But then you're going to give up on taking the steps that will get you from where you are to where you want to be, aka your dream life, aka not good. We don't want you to give up on your dreams. That is the whole point. So, in summary, being well planned, I truly believe it starts with your well-being, taking care of yourself. I think that the essential meat and bones of being well planned is going from where you are to where you want to be, and that is determining what the steps are to get from A to B, and then implementing those steps. And most importantly, when implementing those steps, use a method or methods that work best for you. Okay? So, if you did not hear me loud and clear, take care of yourself, love yourself, accept where you are, who you are, and what works for you. All right? And if you have any questions whatsoever, pretty please hop over into my school group, or you can post comments in YouTube. But ask me questions when it comes to planning. If there's something that you're stuck on, that you're not really sure about, I would love the opportunity to get in, do some research for you, or just share with you things that I already know that work for me. So have an amazing day, and thank you again so much for watching.